On this super review, let's find out. Can an audiophile love the Sony WH-1000XM3? Now, to be honest, I'm a little hesitant to use the term audiophile. It's kind of a loaded term, but if you've watched this channel, you might have noticed that I listen to quite a few different headphones, or more specifically, I listen to earphones. Now, here we've got one of the most popular pairs of headphones out there in the market, the Sony 1000X Mark III. It's also got a WH in the name if you want to be a completionist, but these are, from what I understand, just like the top of the line noise canceling Bluetooth headphones. And frankly, I haven't heard these things before, and I'm interested to check them out, not only for their noise canceling prowess, but also to kind of critique them from an audiophile perspective. Again, hesitant to use that term, but that's what I want to do. So let's go and open up the box. We'll find out what we get inside with the Sony 1000X Mark III. Then I'll give these things a listen and I'll let you know, do these things compare to $350 audiophile friendly headphones, or are you really just getting these for the noise canceling? All right, so after living with the Sony 1000X Mark III for the past week, I'm ready to let you know what I think about this headphone, and we'll start by talking about the general build of it. And generally, I think this is a very, very nicely built headphone. And you can see it just aesthetically, I think it is pretty attractive, just the overall shape and stuff to it. I think they're doing a pretty good job. The build materials are basically all plastic, but it's a very nice feeling plastic. Like the plastic has got kind of a soft rubbery feel to the outside of it. I don't have any creaks or anything. Everything swivels comfortably. The pads are not especially plush, right? There's not like, it doesn't seem like it's memory foam or anything like that. And frankly, they're pretty soft, but it does make it overall, I think, pretty comfortable to wear. It's also surprisingly lightweight compared to some other over-ear headphones that I've tried. They're kind of bulky looking, frankly, but in terms of weight, in terms of comfort, I thought they were above average for sure. Well, in terms of weight, I think it's below average for sure. That's what I meant to say. And the 1000X is an over-ear fitting headphone, which, I don't know, it's kind of a given for a noise canceling headphone. You do want something that is going to fit over your ears, but worth calling out that versus a more on-ear fitting headphone, something like this could get a little bit hotter and sweatier. I don't know that I would use these things for exercise, for example. If I had any quibbles about the build of this thing, One is that there is a blinking blue light on this thing when it's connected over Bluetooth. Fairly minor issue, I guess, but if you're sitting in the dark wearing these things, a blinking blue light can be kind of annoying. And then the other issue, and this is one that bothered me personally a little bit more, is that it's just kind of a bulky headphone to wear around your neck. So if you're in a situation like I am in an office, right, and I want to be walking around listening to music and I want noise cancellation, but occasionally I need to take it off and talk to people, I want to hang the thing around my neck. And it is nice that the headphone generally folds pretty flat and sits against my chest. I like that. It's just a little bit bulky around my neck, and it makes me feel a little bit like RoboCop. I just get a little bit extra stiff when I've got these things wrapped around my neck. A minor issue, I think, but it is definitely something to keep in mind. In terms of general functionality, it's kind of an electronic device. I think the 1000X Mark III is doing quite a lot right. The general Bluetooth connection, like the range on these things, is excellent. I'd say way, way above average. I was able to leave my phone in this room and walk around the entire house and still listen to music, which is pretty impressive. About the only issue that I had with the Bluetooth on this is kind of a very specific situation, which is at my office where I sit happens to have kind of a lot of Wi-Fi interference, and I often have issues with things that use Wi-Fi. And I've never really had any issues with Bluetooth devices in that location, but there were a few occasions where the Bluetooth connection here would give me little hiccups, and it would always instantly recover, and it never happened anywhere except for sitting at my desk at work. But that's something to keep in mind, I suppose, is that maybe while the range in this thing is excellent, it might be a little bit more prone than average to Wi-Fi interference, I suppose. The controls of the device are mostly handled on the right ear cup, and it's all touch controls, right? So on the left ear cup, you've got a power on and off button, and you've got a noise cancellation button. But other than that, there's no buttons on this thing. It's all gonna be touch controls, and it's all gonna be on the right ear cup. And generally, I think they're actually pretty well done. I'm not usually the biggest fan of touch controls. I prefer buttons in general, but it's a pretty good execution here. So you double tap to toggle, pause and play. And that I think is important. The fact that it's a double tap and not a single tap is excellent. You swipe forward and backwards to skip tracks, and then you can swipe up and down to change volumes. And there's a slight beep when you change volumes, but it's pretty quiet and it didn't really bother me like it can with some other Bluetooth headphones. Yeah, I don't know. I think the touch is pretty well done on this, but because it is touch, I still did occasionally, when handling the headphone off of my head, I still did occasionally have some situations where I would accidentally activate like pause or play or something like that on my music when I didn't intend to. Sound latency over Bluetooth on these things, also, I would say exceptionally good. If you've used Bluetooth headphones and like watched a video on your phone before, you've probably noticed that there's usually some lag between what's happening on the screen and what you hear. And there is a very minor amount here, but I would say that the Bluetooth latency on this is probably the best of any headphone I've heard. I would say it's about on par with Apple AirPods, which is to say it's really pretty good, and I think most people are not going to notice that latency. Battery life, I would say, is also very excellent on these things, and in fact, they claim like 30 hours of battery life, and I wasn't sure like how that would play out in terms of mixing, noise cancellation usage with listening to music, but I found that, I don't know, I kind of just didn't have to worry about it. At work, I would just leave these things turned on, and even if I wasn't listening to music, I also wasn't turning off the noise canceling. So I would just leave them on my desk and I'd come back to them, put them on and start playing music. And it was just a nice experience. I didn't really have to worry about trying to manage the power on these things. And even after a couple of days, I still had over 50% battery life. So in that regard, pretty excellent. The other thing that's also excellent about this headphone, and you've probably heard this before, is the noise canceling. I had heard that the noise canceling on the 1000X was gonna be some of the best, if not the absolute best, and I can confirm that it is in fact just really quite stunning noise cancellation. Now, it's still got the limitations of basically most active noise canceling headphones you've ever heard before, where it's really, really good at cutting out low frequency sounds and even like mid-range frequency sounds. Upper frequency sounds, these do a better job than most, but they're still gonna get through. It's not gonna cut everything out completely, but if you're in like an office environment and there's an air conditioner running, or you're on an airplane and there's engines running, these things are gonna cut out that sound entirely and then some. It's just, I don't know, it's almost apocalyptic when you're wearing these things, just the way that it cuts out the sound and you're like, oh, where'd everything go? It's pretty comfortable. I did have the opportunity to compare the noise canceling on these things directly to a couple of other similarly priced headphones, including the Bowers & Wilkins, what is it called again? Including the Bowers & Wilkins PX, as well as the Bose QC25s, not the 35s, but the wired 25s. And comparing them back to back, it was really no contest. The noise canceling here with the 1000X was clearly the better. And in more than one way. So not just were these things cutting out more noise, which they were, but also I would say that the noise canceling on the 1000X was also just the most comfortable. Like if you've messed with noise canceling headphones before, a lot of the times, like they have this, I don't know, it's like some people describe it as like an underwater sensation or like a cabin pressure sensation where you turn on the noise canceling and your ears feel pressurized or slightly different. I didn't get that at all with the 1000X. These are like, frankly, when I first put these things on, I wasn't even sure that noise canceling was turned on. I mean, I couldn't hear anything around me, which certainly suggested that noise canceling was turned on, but I wasn't getting those sensations that I normally associate with noise canceling. So yeah, just really, I think overall, not just is it excellent noise canceling in terms of cutting out the sounds, but it's just very, very comfortable to wear. And that brings us to talking about the sound of the Sony X-1000 Mark III. And unfortunately, that is where this headphone disappoints a person like me. Whether you want to call me an audiophile or just a snob, I don't know. The sound here is frankly not really what I'm looking for. Now, what's worth calling out is that this headphone supports basically every Bluetooth codec under the sun. It supports SBC, AAC, aptX, and even LDAC. And those are like, LDAC and aptX especially, they're just like, those are the top of the line Bluetooth codecs. So when I'm critiquing the sound here, I'm not really worried about the quality of the Bluetooth signal that's coming in here. I expect that these things are getting an absolutely awesome Bluetooth signal. In fact, I did test them over a wire just to make sure that the Bluetooth wasn't the issue, and it wasn't the issue. For me, it really just comes down to the tuning of this headphone, which is overall, I would say, a warm, very mid-bassy headphone. If you're into a lot of mid-bass, maybe you'll be pretty happy with the sound of this. In fact, I know a lot of people are gonna be happy with the sound of this, but for me, it's just way too much bass, and it creates a sound signature that just feels very narrow and congested, and I think kind of muddy. That said, I kind of was able to fix it. I'm not usually one to delve into EQ a lot. I don't know, I listen to a lot of earphones, and for me, bouncing between a bunch of different EQs, it's not worth the hassle. And frankly, if I want to change my sound signature, I'm just going to change my headphones. That said, I was curious to see what I could do to these things with EQ, and using the EQ in my music playing app on my Samsung S10e, I actually was able to get these things to sound pretty good. And I'll put up an image of what my EQ looks like. Basically what it involves is just taking the bass frequencies, especially the mid-bass frequencies, and just dropping them a ton. And by a ton, I mean like 10 decibels. I just drop that mid-bass way, way, way down. I let the sub-bass kind of roll back up because I still like that sub-bass rumble. I just don't need that boomy, muddy mid-bass. Also, I put in a little bit of an extra rise into the upper mid-range to pull out the vocals, and I think the overall resulting sound signature, it removes that muddiness, adds a lot of clarity to the sound. It doesn't sound harsh at all, and I think it becomes a really nice, comfortable, pretty fun sounding headphone. It's still an over-ear closed back headphone, so the sound stage isn't especially big, detail isn't especially strong, but it is a very pleasant sound with this EQ. Unfortunately, as much as I like that EQ, it's kind of tied to that app. So if I take these headphones to a different device or even a different app, I'm not gonna get those sound adjustments that I like. On the bright side, Sony does have an app for these headphones that works on both iOS and Android, and in that app, you can customize the sound with a similar EQ. And in fact, I was able to get the sound signature to sound pretty similar to the EQ that I used in my music app. Unfortunately, and I think this is a really big bummer, when you use the app to enable an EQ for these things, for the Sony WH-1000XM3, the app warns you. It basically says, we're gonna do this for you, but we're gonna have to kick down the Bluetooth connection quality to the lowest quality. It has to knock it down to SBC. So all those nice codecs that this thing supports, from AAC, aptX, and LDAC, all that nice Bluetooth support that you get, it goes out the window if you want to use an EQ that you bake into the sound signature. And that, frankly, I find really, really disappointing. So now we get to rating this thing, and I'm having kind of a hard time, frankly, because as an electronic appliance device, I think this thing is excellent. I might give it 5 stars out of 5. I think the build quality is excellent, not especially like, it's not made of leather and metal or anything like that, but it's very well built, very, very comfortable. And then that noise canceling is so strong on these things. And it is a thing that I think can improve your life in a lot of ways. So I want to love this thing. Unfortunately, when it comes to the sound signature, especially the sound signature out of the box, I'd give these things like 2 stars out of 5. I think it's just way too much bass, too much mid bass. It's not even the kind of bass that's really nice and pleasant and enjoyable and fun to listen to. I think it's just kind of makes it boomy and muddy sounding, and it's not especially good at all. With an EQ, I can make these things sound pretty good. I can make these things sound like if they sounded the way that I get them to sound with my EQ, I'd be a lot happier with this headphone. But as it is, combining sort of the excellent build, the excellent noise cancellation, and that very sub-excellent sound quality, I think I'm gonna have to give these things 3 stars out of 5. If you're interested in checking out the Sony WH-1000XM3, of course, I've got links in the description down below. While you're down there, you can hit the like button for the video if you liked it. You can subscribe to the channel, and then I'll see you on the next super review.